Happy Monday. Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you guys can hear me loud and clear. Yeah. All right, I see the judge. Where you at?
I'm in my car.
Why?
Because of some exigencies. Don't make me explain, but anyway, I'm in the car.
Oh, so you on your way out to go have dinner?
No, I'm not.
Or you on your way home?
Neither.
You're gonna do the show in the car. Okay.
Yeah, I have bad reception where I am at the house. It's exercise in futility, so I found a good signal, so I'm calling from the signal. Maybe with no interruptions for a change.
All right. So
Can you see me?
no, I can see you and I can hear you. You sound and you look fine. The
But I
sound
don't
is
have
fine.
I'm not showing any picture on my end, but anyway.
No, as long as you don't move and you stay where you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a black screen over here where I am. Well, no, I see me. There I am. But it's not showing up on the small screen. Okay, I got you. Be good.
So, all right. A couple of things that I want to talk about. The main event, the main topic, Tulsi Gabbard declassifies proof that Obama created the Russian hoax. Yeah, so that dropped yesterday, and people have been talking about it. People are still talking about the Epstein. I don't want to talk about the Epstein. However, the Trump administration has released the MLK classified files, and I think that was just a an Epstein distraction to give people attention off of Epstein, but the MAGA community is not letting up because they're still pissed at Trump. Of course, I do want to go back and talk about the migrant crisis with Karen Bass. You mentioned that to me earlier, that you wanted to talk about her as well. And RIP to Malcolm Jamal Warner. We'll get to that a little bit later. And guys, please like the show, share it, comment. If you would like to send in a question or a comment, please do so via super chat on X. Shout out to everybody on X. Please repost and bookmark. Appreciate you guys. All right. So first thing I want to get into, let me bring this up real quick. Before we get into the Tulsi Gabbard thing, Mayor Karen Bass. Now, the National Guards were deployed in LA, but they finally left. They ended up leaving. The National Guards ended up leaving, and this is Karen Bass on Face the Nation talking about ICE, the National Guards, and the migrant crisis she refuses to acknowledge.
Mayor Karen Bass. Good morning, Madam Mayor.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. Glad you can hear me. We are looking at immigration issues 6 months in. You have had such a firsthand experience out in LA, given the deployment of U.S. troops. The president ordered the early release of nearly half of the National Guard from LA. Have they departed yet? What are the remaining ones doing?
Well, I believe they've departed, but they were never needed in the first place. And the remaining ones are doing what they were doing all along, which is essentially protecting 2 federal buildings, one of which in Westwood, where there never has been a big protest against the immigration raids. This is just such an incredible misuse of not only taxpayers' money, but of the young people who are in the National Guard, who've had to leave their families, their jobs, and their education for this deployment that is completely unnecessary. 4,000 troops, my understanding is most of their time has been spent in complete boredom, playing video games, and essentially waiting around because, again, 4,000 deployed and about 200 actually used.
The White House, of course, argues they deployed them because there was interference with the operations of law enforcement in carrying out some of the roundups. There are still enforcement actions by ICE taking place. You have talked about your objections, as you described them, to masked men, unmarked cars, drawing guns, snatching people off the street. You filed a Freedom of Information request to, quote, know who these masked men are. Why, though, is their identity important to you? Do you plan to prosecute them?
Well, no, let me just explain. Because you have people who are literally walking down the street, sitting at bus stops, are individual vendors selling fruit on the street. These masked men pull up in unmarked cars and jump out of the cars with rifles and detain people. So for the average citizen, it looks like it's a violent kidnapping. So you should never have that. They don't identify themselves. And furthermore, to your previous guest, how on earth do they know that they're a threat when they're just chasing random people through parking lots, at Home Depots, going to car washes and rounding up people? It's difficult to get your car washed in Los Angeles now because most of the car washes, the employees won't come to work out of fear that a raid will take place.
So I want to get your thoughts on that, because last week we talked about how she's giving these illegals, money by a card, like a comp card, because they are afraid to go to work and it's a burden on their families. And this being funded by some of it by the taxpayers and private entities, private organizations. So now she's making a case for, she wants the identity of these National Guards and these ICE agents. They shouldn't have ever been here. They wasted their time. So what are your thoughts on her?
Fine. The primary law she's violating is United States Code annotated Title 8, Section 1324. It's a felony. Her official status does not give an excuse or defense to doing what she's doing. In fact, on sentencing, it compounds and aggravates the sentence. She's saying, in effect, because people violate the law, they should be free from worries about recrimination or consequences vesting for the violation of the law. She's falling into a trap which was illustrated by Orville Faubus in 1957 when, as governor of Arkansas, he declared he was not going to follow United States law relative to desegregation. That gave Ike Eisenhower every justification in the world for calling out 14,000 federal troops. As far as the troops sitting around doing nothing but playing video games right now, well, that's part of the whole military thing. After training very, very hard, when you are waiting to go into action, it is incredible boredom, occasionally punctuated by whatever comes from the, shall we say, adrenaline flow of going into action. We've got a tragic downside to that. Kent State, 1968. We've got many other expositions, including in Los Angeles, when Lyndon Baines Johnson called out about 12,000 troops and the California National Guard to deal with the uprising in the so-called Watts riots of 1965 in August. I was there and saw it. So this is nothing new. And she falls into the same trap as Governor Newsom, who is doing a lot of things that under the code sections involved would put them in a federal penitentiary, or, since they are who they are, probably a minimum security facility at somebody's military or naval base or air base, a minimum security facility, but still it calls for time and the empanelment of grand juries. So anywhere there's a U.S. attorney that has jurisdiction over the subject matter. And since it impacts the whole United States, that leaves open a lot of areas, geographic areas. So this bunch might wind up cuffed up.
Well,
and by the way, it seems that the Trump administration's Justice Department is getting ready to take civil action against her.
Well, speaking, she mentioned about people are afraid they're going to be kidnapped. I want to play this here because now you have these illegals trying to stage their own kidnapping and blame it on ICE.
Now at 4, a South LA woman accused of staging a fake immigration kidnapping is now facing federal criminal charges. Good afternoon. This is the KTLA 5 News at 4. I'm John Fenolio. She allegedly claimed she was being held in a facility near the border, but the Department of Homeland Security says they found her at a mall in Bakersfield. KTLA's Sarah Welch joins us from South LA with the story. Sarah.
Hey, John, good afternoon. The Department of Homeland Security says Julie Calderon made this whole story up, that it was a hoax, that she blamed federal agents while stoking fear in the community. Free Julie now! Back on June 30th, family and friends of Julie Calderon claimed she was kidnapped in this Jack-in-the-Box parking lot off Alameda in South LA by federal agents or people working with them.
Ununiformed men in unmarked cars kidnapped Julie.
But the U.S. Attorney's Office says that was a lie. In its criminal complaint, they say these are photos of Calderon, a citizen of Mexico, on June 25th, parking her Toyota in the fast food parking lot, getting out and then walking across the street to get into another vehicle at this gas station and later driving away. Days went by and the family set up a GoFundMe to help find her, and they also filed a missing persons case with LAPD.
She was taken straight from here to the border and pressured to sign self-deportation paperwork.
Calderon claims she used another person's cell phone to say she was taken to a warehouse at an unknown location. But federal investigators say that was also a lie. And when we asked LAPD, all they would tell us is that they had closed the missing persons investigation. Federal investigators say Calderon was never in federal custody. And on July 4th, they located her with this woman at a parking lot in Bakersfield. Investigators say she stuck to her story. She'd been kidnapped. And these are photos investigators say Calderon created to make it appear as if she was in custody and being mistreated. But the U.S. Attorney's Office says she orchestrated the phony kidnapping to generate public sympathy and solicit donations. Now, the U.S. Attorney's Office released this statement saying dangerous rhetoric that ICE agents are kidnapping illegal immigrants is being recklessly peddled by politicians and echoed in the media to inflame the public and discredit our courageous federal agents. He went on to say, in terms of this case, all those involved will face the full consequences of their conduct under federal law. Now, Calderon has lived in L.A. for more than 20 years. She's charged with conspiracy and making false statements to federal agents. So far, no one else has been charged in this case, but the U.S. Attorney's Office says this case is ongoing. We did reach out to Calderon's family and the family attorney, but we haven't heard back yet.
They faking. Why they faking their own immigration kidnapping?
This is the whole 9 yards worth of the farce. This shows you how lacking in credibility that this whole side is. They have an agenda they're trying to push, and the agenda is furthered by the attempt to foster lawlessness and disrespect for public order. And they are achieving it. Los Angeles has got some problems right now, and when it gets to a certain point, all of these people are going to get busted for inciting riots, which will make me laugh. Even certain ones that belong in Congress, they're only immune going to and from Congress, and while Congress is in session, but not otherwise, and they're only immune for things they say if the statements occur during a congressional session or on the floor of one house or another, the House or the Senate. So, well, chamber rather than house. So they ought to be interesting and amusing when they get it. And I'm waiting. I think they're probably just putting together cases right now.
Wow, a hot mess.
Sure.
So
And also there is a crime called making a false statement to a federal agency or agent.
yeah, and I heard that she started a GoFundMe. Somebody in the chat put that. So
Fraud, that's another thing. And since she used the net, that becomes wire fraud, which becomes a federal crime. So it ought to be interesting.
all right, so let's get into it. You know, the main topic here. Some other things I want to bring up, but I want to get into this right now.
Tulsi Gabbard and Barack Obama.
Yeah, so
I've been saying for several years now that most of what you got out of that administration and the Biden administration that followed, they're falsities propagandized to try and discredit the opposition in a fashion that has not occurred over a nationwide spread like it has been at any point in American history. You have a few exemplars like Tammany Hall in New York back in the 19th century, or certain crooked organizations. Los Angeles used to be rife with that back in the 50s and the 40s. But Chicago used to have those problems, but it's getting worse, and you've got a mechanism called social media, the internet, etc., that makes it easier. Ought to be interesting when the indictments start flowing.
I wanna let me read this because this is what Trump posted on his Truth Social. In the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election. So it's very striking when we look back at the documents that I declassified and released to show there was a shift in early December. And I want to play this clip of Tulsi.
Leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bringing together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President.
Okay, so that was the end of that clip.
Well, what you were listening to is the exact same kind of thing on a different scale that we just heard about relative to the false claim of improper arrest and imprisonment by ICE that has been discredited.
This meeting was called.
That's what you're listening to. And again, it becomes a matter of if they tell a lie, an obvious caught red-handed lie, in one instance, you might want to consider that everything they're telling you is a lie. And that's, by the way, an instruction that juries would get when assessing, relative to assessing the credibility of a witness. So here we go. You have the lackey mainstream media, the Obama/Biden administration / Imhoff administration, and they are into that fascist thing. Tell a lie long enough, loud enough, you can get anyone to believe it. And the mainstream media right now is repeating over and over and over and over the prevarication about what Trump has been up to or not up to. And they're trying to get the American public to accept it as a reality, even though it has no foundation in truth.
So this is what Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday, right? And it's like a collage of different videos. And then in this video, it's an AI of Obama being arrested. Let me just play it.
No one, especially the president, is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I don't want to get a copyright from the song, so that's why I muted it. Look, AI is crazy. I need to hire someone who is very, very good with creating AI videos and pictures. This is crazy. All right. I don't know. The judge went out. I think he'd been touching too many buttons. No one is above the law. Wait a minute. Let me text him and see where he's at. He claims sitting in that car, he gets good reception. So there should be no excuse on why he dropped out. So he should be coming back on. I just text him, but like, what happened? There should be no excuse on why he dropped out. But is Obama going to get arrested? No. No, he's not. That is Mr. Untouchable. He is Mr. Untouchable. But you know why Trump created this, and why they released these documents? Again, and it's a question I need to ask, is Trump losing his MAGA base? Because they have been dragging Trump and his administration ever since last week when Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, came out and said, the case is closed. He did commit suicide, yada, yada. There's no list. What happened? What is that noise now?
Well, the phone overheated. That was cute.
The audio sounds so perfect when you first came on. Now I don't know.
Okay, how about this?
Okay, it's better now. Oh, you must have the AC on.
Yeah, I had to turn the air conditioning on. Phone overheated.
So, yeah. So I was saying no one is above the law. But Obama is Mr. Untouchable. He's never going to get arrested.
Well, he's the only president that has been Well, he's not the only one, but he was mentioned by name in 7 counts, I think it was, of an organized crime indictment involving one of the clients of his law firm, or the law firm he was in. That's cute.
Yeah. So
An unindicted co-actor.
So somebody put in the chat, other people around him can get arrested.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what happened?
Well, the thing that's interesting is it would be a high crime and a misdemeanor in office, which after the precedent that the Democratic-controlled House set ill-advisedly, you can go after a president for Article 2, Section 4 impeachment matters, even though he no longer holds the office. They went after Trump when he was no longer president. They can go after Barack Obama. It'd be symbolic only, but they could. Be cute. Real cute.
Let me share this.
This is another instance where you see the Democrats having projected what they were doing onto Donald Trump. The Obama administration was undermining public confidence in the elections, deliberately undermining confidence in the elections, and then accusing the Trump campaign of doing the very same thing. They knew that they didn't have the actual intel or any evidence to actually bring any charges against Trump because, of course, he didn't do any of the things they were accusing him of, but they were constantly leaking to the news media. And that was one of the things that we saw revealed today in these new documents, is that they were using the intelligence community essentially as a public relations arm. This is another instance where you
typical
was a hoax. Fox News alert, we just got a peek inside Obama's black book, and it turns out Barack knew the Russia hoax was a hoax all along, but pushed it anyway to sabotage the Trump presidency. DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifying pages and pages of documents showing Obama's intel guys briefed him just weeks after the 2016 election that the Russians didn't actually sway the election. Quote, we assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact the recent U.S. election results. Criminal activity also failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes. But Obama just couldn't accept that. So he and his staff instructed intel agencies to cook up new reports to support Russia collusion. Quote, after the meetings, Clapper's executive assistant emailed intelligence community leaders, tasking them to create a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request that detailed the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. Tulsi Gabbard described what she found as a conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people. And she says the people involved should be prosecuted and has made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice.
That's a classic propaganda tactic. Accuse the other side of doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Displacement.
But is it a distraction from the Epstein list?
The Epstein list is minuscule. It's not going to have much impact on anything. And as I think, the Epstein list is a minefield right now in terms of its potential to jeopardize the lives and activities of the American and allied intelligence communities.
Okay, I get that. But what I'm saying is, see, all these people on X holding spaces, they got 5,000, over 1,000 people in the space.
Ignorance is rampant.
Upset. They're like,
They'd be upset.
So now all of a sudden, because I look at it like this, okay, so now you expose the declassified Russia hoax. Well, how about they also declassify the 2020 election?
Well, the 2020 election is fine with that too. That'll come around. I think that's one of the aims of the current Trump administration, is to work that up so they've got the research and the documentation, and then let go of it and let it hit the fan. It's all in the timing too.
So Hunter Biden, a clip of him popped up talking about the immigrants, well, the illegals.
For someone, am I going to be like all these Democrats say, you have to talk about and realize that people are really upset about illegal immigration. Fuck you. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you got food on your fucking table? Who do you think washes your dishes? Who do you think does your fucking garden? Who do you think is here by the fucking sheer fucking just grit and will that they figured out a way to get here because they thought that they could give themselves and their family a better chance. And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the fucking criminals for someone? Am I?
Well, my answer to that, in response to that is, they're criminals just like the criminals who sold you the crack that you are shown prominently smoking on your 3 laptops. So, yeah, does that make what they did okay because they sold you your crack or supplied you with it? Crime is crime, and it puts Americans out of jobs. It opens up the border to not only criminals, reprobates, sex offenders, sickos, infected people who may be carrying.
What happened? Oh, honey, can you please stop calling his phone? Hello, can you hear me?
Hear me? I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. See, it's got to do with opening up our borders to Al Qaeda, ISIS, all of the people that want to kill us off so they don't have to hijack airplanes to pull off another 911. They walk in with the military grade explosives, set the charges, and await the cue to detonate them. They don't even have to commit suicide to do it now.
Well, my
And
thing is, he's saying a lot of F words.
I know that's him. That's him. But it is what it is. Oh, just like I suppose we should legitimate his crack dealers and suppliers because they provided him with his merchandise. Well, that people subvert American labor laws by compounding, aiding, and abetting the violation of American law does not make it all right.
Well, I want to ask you this though. Is Trump, do you think because people were upset with the Epstein and there's a couple other things, and then with the falling out with Elon Musk and Elon Musk trying to start a new party, do you think Trump is losing his MAGA base?
No, he's gaining it. And the whole thing with Musk is going to work out as a rapprochement. It's theater. As I've said, we have the makings through MAGA of a third party already in existence, which might be very helpful to the American political scene. Musk is saying some things that are not ill taken. And what he's doing is he's being a step back critic of something that Trump has to do as leader of the Republican Party. In order to maintain party unity, you have to give the parties at least some of what they are requesting or demanding to maintain their loyalty and cohesion. So Musk is complaining about some of the things that the Republicans want, or what they call pork, just like the Democrats are talking about. In other words, it's just stuff in the barrel that they decide to cut up and dispense, and it's unnecessary and unneeded, but they want it badly to satisfy their constituents and to make whole of their own campaign promises. So it is what it is. It's politics. We've just gotten used to the political process being behind the camouflage net because the media has had no alternatives that present themselves to altering the narrative that they've been giving us, which is a false one, about what's going on. I know, for example, Russia had absolutely nothing to do with me voting for Trump. Hadn't heard anything they were talking about that was of particular significance to me. I know a lot of people, and I don't know anybody that was influenced by the Russians. I do know that a lot of people were not pleased by what they heard from mainstream media, and it's kind of also there's a downside when you're telling this tale long and loudly to get everybody to believe it. Sometimes you aggravate other people who are on the fence and say they're talking about it so much there must be a good reason why they're so upset besides what they say. So coming out, just give things time and the tail percolates to the top.
So this month, I think it was today or yesterday, no, today officially makes 6 months that he's been in office for his second term. And it seems like we are on year 3 with so much stuff that happened from since January 21st to now July 21st. He did so much that most presidents do in basically 2 terms. Because we talked about before, Obama, he only signed maybe a total of 4 or 5 executive orders, totaling his whole 8 years that he's been president. So when you compare that to Trump and bills and everything else that's going on, it seemed like Trump has been president already for 3 years and it's only been 6 months. You pressing buttons, honey. We cannot hear you. Why did you even press mute?
Well, it's like this. It's not that Obama didn't sign quite a number of executive orders, but not many of them dealt with matters that were popular with the American public or of great concern to the American public. They were secretive, they were behind the scenes, and they were efforts to subvert or get around, ignore certain strictures of American law. So it's not surprising. As I've said for several years, the American Democratic Party is beginning to mimic the National Socialist Workers Party, the acronym for which is NAZI, Nazi. And a lot of the methodologies that the Democrats are using are the same. Some people say communist, but communism was self-limiting. It had an objective which, once accomplished, was supposed to obsolete the need for it. But fascism is just a method of taking control and imposing a totalitarian regime on people who are presumed to be incapable of self-governance so that you can get a particular agenda pushed without any opposition. And look at the agenda that we get pushed on us and all of the opposition that gets so enthusiastically suppressed by the Democrats.
Yeah. Well, MLK files was dropped
I've seen
today.
all of them. I didn't see anything that I hadn't already gotten a chance to go through at great length.
Yeah.
See, this is a misnomer. What's going on is these assassination files are not just freshly released. They were released pursuant to a 1989 and 1990 series of laws passed by Congress, signed off on by President George Herbert Walker Bush, a Republican, and William Clinton, a Democrat, and reinforced by Clinton and Bush after Bush signed the act that requires all government entities to forward all evidence, letters, documentation, correspondence, etc., witness statements, etc., that dealt with any of the assassination attempts from John F. Kennedy. Actually, they even have some stuff in there on some attempts on Harry Truman's life back 70 years ago. So that's all in there. They have some in there about a couple of assassination attempts against Roosevelt back in the 30s. So all of that's in there. And they have stuff on the
have so much
Lincoln
there.
assassination, the assassination of McKinley, the attempted assassination of
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt, all sorts of things in there.
Well, it says here, MLK files CIA surveil MLK's hotel room and dug through his trash. CIA records reveal agents spied on MLK and Bernard Lee from a hotel room next door during a 1966 stay in Miami. They watched who came and went, listened through the walls, noted sex experiences, and after checkout, rummaged through wastebaskets and dressers, collecting phone numbers and personal notes. One surveillance read Dr. King Hotel, call operator, Communist Party. In 1976, the CIA memo reveals agency identified 82 documents about Dr. King, Coretta Scott King, and James L. Ray, but says 66 of them were destroyed in 74 and 2 were lost. The surviving 14 include FBI reports on Coretta, the SCLC fundraising, King's speeches, and even assassination rumors, plus documents on King's European travel and alleged communist infiltration of the civil rights groups. The CIA claimed it never helped the FBI to mount or carry out any operations to discredit him, while admitting they tracked this all in detail.
I've seen a lot of those documents, and what they're describing was sort of a ubiquitous practice against everybody from community-based militants all the way up to some of the more prominent people, Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, that kind of thing. So that was part of the course, and some of us used to amuse ourselves by requesting copies of what they had come up with and dossiers on ourselves through the Freedom of Information Act. Some of them are quite fascinating, but that's nothing new. The FBI spent a lot of time on that instead of dealing with organized crime or other things along that line of inquiry.
You were the last sitting judge on the James L. Ray case.
That's right. And if it had gone to the conclusion, as indicated, I got removed 3 or 4 times and put back on. There was another case that had similar issues that wound up getting approved by our state Supreme Court, which is the likely outcome of this. But Ray and his local associated counsel, a guy named Wayne Chastain, died within 2 days of each other. So that made the whole thing moot. But I would have found Ray was not the gunman. In fact, the gunman, it's not 1, but 2, they were recruited by the FBI from most likely the Marine Sniper School in Quantico, Virginia, which, as I put it, was just a walk across the tarmac from where the FBI had a training facility. They supplied the weapons, which were 2 of approximate 5 of approximately 62 XM21s, which were experimental modifications to the standard M14 to make semi-auto sniper rifles out of them. 2-man hit team fired the shot from the fire station, not the flop house, nor the bushes, which are righted ones over the other. The window for the flop house bathroom was stuck shut, couldn't have been opened. The shot couldn't have been fired from that. Anybody that was hanging around in the bushes would have been seen from Main Street, literally, that's the name of the street, for several hours before the shooting, which isn't likely to happen. So they supplied the ammunition. There were 5 serial numbered weapons that the FBI got on invoice in late December 1967, after the shooting, early April 1968. The FBI was ordered to return the 5 weapons to the Defense Department. There was an inventory conducted, and the FBI claims they lost one of these experimental sniper rifles in the 4 months since they got them.
Interesting.
Believe that.
Well, I was wondering, but now that they released the unclassified documents of MLK, do you think that
they haven't been classified for 35 years? The problem is that they were in a repository on 14th Street in downtown DC. And if you wanted them, you had to go in and make a specific copy for them, pay your fee, and you'd get a certified copy.
Oh, okay.
These are just released to the general public without having to go through that process. There's some interesting stuff in there, too. Particularly, I would address anybody who's interested to the correspondence between Assistant U.S. Attorney Stephen Trott, eventually a federal judge, a now late person, and look at the correspondence between him, Assistant U.S. Attorney Trott, and the lawyers for organized crime figure Billy Saul Estes, who was promised a commutation of his sentence if the information panned out. But unfortunately, they assigned the investigatory process to the FBI, who covered their own tracks and simply sent back a terse memorandum saying there's absolutely nothing to this. But it turned out in my conferences with some of the retired detectives from the Dallas Police Department who were involved in the original assassination, there was a whole lot to it that answered some questions that they had had for years.
Do you think that these documents are going to have details of MLK's infidelity sex life?
There's a tape, reel-to-reel tape series that I've listened to. It has a lot to do with a lot of things about those kind of things, but I'm not going to get into it. They're salacious.
So do you think that if we go to the website to read these documents, I'm pretty sure that's documented in here?
What you'd be listening to is reading would be transcripts of some tape recordings, but that's salacious. It has nothing to do with anything. Somebody's sex life is their business unless it impugns on national security or some other situation compromises an investigation or what have it. But that's the American public. Too much of it is
the Americans want salacious.
In other words, but you see, there's been a transition. That kind of stuff used to be on the last page of the last section of a newspaper, on literally the last column. Whether you read the New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, San Francisco Picayune, it made no difference. And it was reserved for people of what were deemed low character to get into. But the soap operas and tabloid journalism over the last 50 some years have been very conducive to altering the mindset of the American public. And there have been 50 years worth of encouragement of ignorance and glorifying dysfunction. So now the public assumes these things are legitimate. It's what you and I sometimes bat heads over when I say I don't want to get into it, because it's part of what the mainstream media has spent a half century doing, conditioning the American public to thinking that these things have some important bearing on what they're doing other than satisfying a morbid curiosity. They have absolutely nothing to do with your day-to-day life. They reflect an unhealthy attitude about things, and that's what we've been encouraged to think like. So it's unhealthy.
So what should the American people, take from this? What should they read it for? What purpose? Or what should they be looking for? Like, what should they get out of it?
There are thousands of documents. The files stacked 5 and 6 file boxes deep, about 10, 15 feet long and about 6 feet high and about 5 feet wide. It's a lot of material in that. So it depends on how academic you want to be and how inquisitive you are about things that need to be brought to light. And I doubt that the American mainstream media is going to get into it because it doesn't match their narrative. I mean, some of what's in those files that I have seen are memoranda widely circulated in the FBI discussing the merits of assassinating King. And the main debate was whether he'd be more dangerous as a live agitator who would galvanize the anti-war movement like he did civil rights and revitalize labor, or as a dead martyr. See, they didn't care about civil rights because civil rights had been basically superseded by the militancy of the Black, Asian, Hispanic, and white communities, the last in reaction to the Vietnam War, which was very unpopular. And feminism had kicked in, and there was this assault on masculinity that was causing all kinds of drama. So it is.
So no, it seemed like, whether it's Black Americans or Americans, period, have been waiting forever to know what really happened with the civil rights movement and MLK and the CIA and the FBI and his assassination. Now, okay, now you could go read it. Are you interested?
Well, you're not going to just read it because these conclusions aren't there. You still have to dot the I's and cross the T's and connect the dots and draw the lines, because it's not going to spell it out, but it's there very plainly. And it's not about who was being traitorous, because the real traitor, I very seldom hear his name mentioned, and he basically goes unscathed. And people are blaming Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was not the traitor by any stretch of the imagination. And some of the people that are being lauded were the traitors. And I think one of the reasons that came about is so that we could get people, and he wasn't involved in this because he was entirely too young, is people like Chicken George Sharpton, Al.
Mm-hmm.
And they were setting the stage for stuff like that being the leadership, and Cory Booker's and Hopkins and such like, and Jasmine Crockett's and Maxine Waters. They were setting the stage for this type to be perceived as American leaders. So the FBI was also engaged in a concurrent program to discredit what they thought was effective Black leadership. In other words, those Black leaders or influencers who might have actually made a difference. And they were focused on getting people in front of the minority communities who would make no difference or in effect be counterproductive to support.
That's a great point, because they're not infiltrating nothing now because they're not real leaders. And maybe the FBI and the CIA know that. When you look at, like you said, when you look at the Hakeems, the Crockett's, Cory Booker, BLM, the Al Sharptons, we don't got to deal. We don't got to infiltrate them. We don't got to bug them, because we already know that they're already paid and bought for, and they're not even representing the Black Americans too. Whereas the Malcolm X, MLK, Black Panther, and others, oh no, that has to stop. So
yeah, I'll give you an example. First degree murder in some states can carry the death penalty. Do we need more first degree murder statutes? Answer: no, we don't, because we have a bookload of them that work real well. So what's going on is we have all the laws we need. We don't need any more. So what's the purpose of old time civil rights, which was to get the laws passed? We've had those laws in place since the late 1960s. The problem is the Black leadership It was supposed to be the driving engine to make sure those laws got applied, became involved in selfish self-aggrandizement, corruption, criminality, and egotism. And what we have is not effective leadership. We've got people who want our votes so they can be put in position to corrupt the system and get rich. We had a judge removed in Georgia. We see this with Tish James in New York, where it turns out that her own dealings in terms of real estate much mirror what she was accusing President Trump of. We see this kind of thing. So we see Al Sharpton, who makes a nice, comfortable living trying to undercut the efforts of the Black community to get somewhere. By the way, a classic example of what the press has done is to reverse the roles that W.E.B. Du Bois had in the late 1960s with that of Booker T. Washington. We fairly well hated Booker T. Washington in the late 60s, and we lauded W.E.B. Du Bois, but the propaganda has flipped the script on that. And to give you an idea of what W.E.B. Du Bois was about, was we thought he was an early edition of Malcolm X, okay? We put him in the same category of persons as we did Frederick Douglass. We had, on the other hand, we had Booker T. Washington, and the way we would describe Booker T. Washington is just imagine if in 40, 50 years, they made Al Sharpton a hero as a great Black leader. You have to take into context that just about every southern state had a whole slew of schools named after Booker T. Washington. Every southern city has a Booker T. Washington high school. Booker T. Washington used to get frequent invitations to the White House from various and sundry racist American presidents. And he went because he was a good Negro who destroyed all other young Negroes coming up who were trying to make a difference. That was his reputation.
But wasn't he trying? He was making a difference as well. And
he wasn't making, in my opinion, not one damn bit of difference. That man was dangerous. He destroyed hundreds of young Black people who would have been great leaders for the cause.
Now, okay, you did say your opinion, because there are a whole bunch of other people that
you find somebody
that love Booker.
You find somebody 75 years old who was active in the movement back in the late 60s who admires Booker T. Washington. You might find one or two.
Oh, I know. I said my generation, younger people, they admire Booker T. Washington and you know what he has done.
He hasn't done shit. And what he did was he was like Al Sharpton. He was like this bunch of clowns who didn't help any damn thing. They gave him a rep while he was assisting everybody on snitching. He was like Ron Everett, a.k.a. Ron Karinga. He got where he was because he was a snitch undercutting people. It's the US organization that killed Bunchy Carter and John Huggins at UCLA's Campbell Hall in the 60s. It is the US organization that killed off a lot of Black leadership in Los Angeles and the West Coast. It's them that started this thing of Kwanzaa, set up in Leimert Park for the first meeting in 1966 to set up something where Black people would start talking and they could inform to the FBI and the SIS unit of the Los Angeles Police Department.
So basically,
this is what it was all about. Now we have Kwanzaa.
So basically,
making him the hero when he is the villain.
I see what you're saying. So basically, Booker T. Washington was a snitch, and the reason why he achieved all these accolades with the Tuskegee and you know all this stuff is because he cooperated with whether it's the White House, the FBI, and suppressed other potential Black leaders.
Yeah.
He probably gave, probably talked about W.B. Du Bois in a negative way to slow him down for what he was trying to achieve. So no one wasn't investing Booker T because he was working for the man, the white man.
Yeah, like what in the world? One of the most racist clowns in the 20th century to occupy the White House was Woodrow Wilson. He signed the executive order that segregated Washington, D.C., officially segregated the U.S. Navy, which had been integrated up to that point on board ships. He was well supported, meaning Booker T, by President Woodrow Wilson. Theodore Roosevelt, who, to solve a problem that the Buffalo Soldiers had with the Texas Rangers killing a bunch of them, he just put 20 plus Buffalo Soldiers on a wall and had them executed. And didn't even, Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, we named the teddy bear after Franklin Delano Roosevelt's favorite uncle. And that clown was a staunch Booker T. Washington supporter. I mean, you name it, for people who were bad for Black folk.
So Booker T was the house nigga.
The house nigga. That's what we called him. He was an embarrassment to the militant Black community in the late 60s. He was
now, Garvey.
Garvey was doing stuff on a pragmatic basis, trying to set
Garvey was talking shit about W.B. Du Bois, and he said he didn't trust light-skinned people.
Yeah.
And Garvey came here under the recommendation of Booker T.
Yeah, I know. So there was that
and he
war
was a scammer too.
That was that war. The difference is that W.E.B. Du Bois said something that offended everybody on the Booker T side. He said the problem of the 20th century will be the color line all around the world. The solution to that is for the talented 10th to bootstrap itself and its people up. Booker T. Washington was trying to destroy that so there would be no talented 10th to bootstrap anybody up. Marcus Garvey got caught in the middle and was unaware of the background and circumstances, and he was trying to be a businessman and a shipping magnate. And Booker T. Washington said this kind of Negro over here who's just trying to devote this to business and things like that, where there was a vacuum, he wasn't impacting anybody white negatively. He was somebody to emulate because Washington was talking about wherever you are, pick up the pail, pick up the mop, and do the best you can at the menial jobs you're given. And maybe white folk will be grateful and your grandchildren will get an advantage because they will show their gratitude to us if you do what they want us to do.
So he was
go to hell with that.
He was training and making Black Americans subservient.
That's right. See, there's a lot of talk these days about Black people need to get into vocational skills. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. But I don't buy into it for a number of reasons. When I was in public school in Los Angeles, California in the 1950s, and I enrolled in junior high school, there was a course from the 7th through the 9th grade where all the minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, and Asians, we wound up getting sent to these junior high schools and high schools where it was mandatory that we take these vocational training classes. And they kept telling us over and over, you'll be happier working with your hands. You won't like the stress of using your brain. So we will guide you to using your hands where you can do a lot of good. Maybe your grandchildren will be in a position where they can get into these intellectual academic things. So I said, hell no. If I'd listened to what they were trying to do, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And see, we had teachers that fought against that, who white, black, brown, red, yellow said this is the wrong thing to do. Like, I know how to grow radishes and prune stuff, but what the hell? I'm no damn farmer. I know how to do woodwork, turn stuff on a lathe, weld, do sand casting, but that's not what I do for a living. I wanted to get into academia. And I helped set some stuff up with some teachers who thought that somebody like me and other folks similarly situated would be necessary to help out their communities. And we had a lot of black veteran male teachers that got jobs as school teachers because it paid well back when. And they made sure that we got this leadership training. We got masculinity pounded into us. Our shoes were shined. Pants were pressed, shirts were washed and ironed, your hair was cut, you didn't act slovenly, your shirt was tucked in, your belt was neat, and if you got out of hand, you got the razor strap of the ping pong paddle.
Well, just speaking of the vocational or, trade, not so much the trade as a career, we kind of spoke about it last week. And I want to play this clip real quick here because this is Mike Rowe.
We've been telling kids for 15 years to code. Learn to code, we said. Yeah, well, AI is coming for the coders. They're not coming for the welders. They're not coming for the plumbers. They're not coming for the steam fitters or the pipe fitters or the HVAC. They're not coming for the electricians. You know, that Ideas Festival I was telling you about in Aspen, I sat there and listened to Larry Fink say we need 500,000 electricians in the next couple of years. Not hyperbole. This is me being the alarmist again. There's not a week that goes by in my humble little foundation. It's called MicroWorks, shameless plug. We award work ethic scholarships every year, right, to kids who want to learn a skill that's in demand. These are trade school scholarships. Not a week goes by where I don't get a phone call from somebody like the Blue Forge Alliance, who oversees our maritime industrial base. That's 15,000 individual companies who are collectively charged with building and delivering 3 nuclear-powered subs to the Navy every year for 10 years, right? 2 Virginia, 1 Columbia class. Mind-bogglingly complicated. This guy calls and says, we're having a hell of a time finding tradespeople. Can you help? I said, I don't know, man. It's pretty skinny out there. How many do you need? He says 140,000. 140,000. Now, granted, over 7 years, but they need 80, 90,000 right now. These are our submarines, folks, right? Things go hypersonic, little sideways with China, Taiwan, whatever. Our aircraft carriers are no longer the point of the spear. They're vulnerable. Our submarines matter. And these guys have a pinch point because they can't find welders and electricians to get them built. Where are they? They said. We've looked everywhere. Do you know? I said, yeah. I know where they are. They're in the 8th grade, man. They're in the 8th grade. And the same thing, the automotive industry needs 80,000 collision repair and technicians. Energy, I don't even know what the number is. I hear 300, I hear 500,000 everywhere. So, not to filibuster, but that's the underlying thing that I just really hope people take from this conference. There is a clear and present freak out going on right now. I've heard from 6 governors in the last 6 months. I've heard from the heads of major companies in the country. It's like a memo has gone out. And people are realizing, you know something? We need to tend to this, both on the PR side and on the demographic. I don't know what to do about the retiring demography. I don't know what to do about 7 million able-bodied men choosing not to work. But I do know that the message to the young men and women in this state that a bright future awaits if they would but learn a skill that's in demand, that's going to resonate politically, that's going to resonate practically, it's going to move the needle.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, you just sound a little bit far away. You must have
Okay,
the ear on.
let me explain what that's about. See, he's talking about ship fitters and welders. All that's real good, except I used to be brought up to Renton, Washington by Boeing Aircraft Company decades ago to participate in a community uplift or reach out thing they did. I got tours of the Boeing manufacturing facility in Renton that made a number of their aircraft, including 747s. And the first time I went through, I got a complete tour of the factory and watched them make a 747. It took them 5 days. And there was a lot of fitting where they had the equivalent of pipe fitters and welders working on it. Some decade later, I was back there, and the same thing with a 747. It wouldn't even take them 48 hours to build one from scratch. They had totally automated everything in that factory. And instead of people cutting and fitting stuff, they had laser guided machines that were doing it. And it was all done not by hand, but by CNC machines. It was done by computerized tomography. It was a totally automated process, and I can see that happening with every industry this guy is talking about. It sounds good. There'll be some job opportunities for a decade. I would not be against somebody learning how to weld or do this kind of thing or being a plumber. It has its usage. But those are the very first things that AI is going to displace, because we've heard of robotics, haven't we?
Yeah, I will see that
Yeah,
is.
all of that stuff can
I'm
be
sorry.
done.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Well, as far as that's your opinion that AI is going to replace a plumber. That's not, and I'm saying if that were to happen, it's not happening anytime soon. It may happen in 50 or 100 years, but
it's not 50 or 100 years.
so let me throw this, because recently Delta engine caught on fire and they had to turn around and land. So we have these airplane with the Boeing part, with the airplane parts, with the engines. You need engineers. We need more engineers. We need more people who are able to build with their hands. Because listen, if AI could do it, why they're not doing it now? Because you still need humans for a lot of these things, and we're not training our youth to do these things.
Well, here, see, he missed a point. He was badly in error, and it showed ignorance. Programming is what allows AI to work. The machine has to be programmed to begin with. And they've got an old thing called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, GIGO. And if the programmer puts garbage into the program, then they get garbage out. So you need to learn it. It's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So we need engineers to design. That's still out there. But as I'm saying, this switch at Boeing from having this need for fitters, welders, grinders, fitters changed in 4.5 years. 4.5 years when I went there and saw it. 5 years later, well, the 5th year after 4.5 total automation. You see, robotics will be guided by AI. Robotics will replace all of this. You go in to get your car dealt with, there are things shade tree mechanics can't do. You don't gap plug.
Here's the thing. So I can tell you this right now.
Let me finish.
I'm siding with Mr. Rowe because
I know you are, but I know more about it. I had that kind of background in college. Now, let me say this. A shade tree mechanic can't really work on a modern car because they have all of these electronic modules that you have to hook up the diagnostic devices, and you replace the whole damn module. You just don't go in and screw some wire to another one.
So here's the question I want to ask you though. Who's going to build the AI robots to replace the humans?
Well, the whole thing
you still need humans to build the actual
robots can build themselves.
No,
if you've been into a modern car manufacturing facility,
yes,
The whole thing is robotic. They've got robot arms.
No, it's not. It's partly
that.
that, but it's mainly factories, the workers there. It's the workers.
Yeah, I know, but the workers,
because they are the ones operating the machines that have all these little hands.
I
to
know
do that. So you still need humans.
But there aren't that many calls for this. There will be for about 5 to 10 years. That's gone. So the bottom line is it's like you need to learn how to deal with the fundamentals. You need to learn how to deal with high technology. We need scientists who develop the basic process, technology, the design process. We need that's ST. We need M. We need engineers to make the designs, fit the stuff together, to put the computers in line so they can do it. And we need people who can deal with the language, mathematics. So that's STEM, STEM. That's where it's going to be. We have a need for people in the service industry, but what will happen with them, which the United States is not doing, is unlike Japan, the former Soviet Union, China, Korea, when a person is displaced by technology, the government requires that they get an equal paying job in the service industry or some other thing as a quality control inspector so that you don't put these people out of a job or paying positions and displace them. We don't have any such program. And what we have to serve this function is our prison industry that warehouses surplus labor units, AKA the defendant who is convicted, put in jail. 97% of the people in penitentiaries pled guilty and put themselves in there, and they did not get what was necessary.
They're not learning a trade in prison.
They aren't supposed to because they're surplus to requirements.
But
that's what's so bad about letting these.
Wait, let me just say this. And then we got to move on. What Mr. Mike Rowe is saying, he's not talking about what inmates can't do what he's talking about. So that is your opinion. That's fine. You think of it different. I think of it as, okay, yes, we are headed in this AI world with the robots and stuff like that, but humans is still highly needed. And people think, because he said something that made sense. When you look at the coding, computer science, they're getting laid off. They're not hiring for coding. So, all right. So then what do you want to do? That's because that's part. Let me finish. That's part of STEM. No, they are laying software developers off. They're laying people who major in computer science. They're laying off people who are in coding. I know a whole bunch of people who have gotten laid off, but you know what is being hired? And he is a CEO. Havoc, electricians, plumbers. They're never getting laid off. But I'm not saying, I agree with you to where you need advanced STEM. We need to invest in advanced STEM. But
you need all of it.
Yes, you need all of it. You need all of it. That's yes. That's the
point is they want the Negroes into manual arts, not into the high technology where you can design and build something. It's like this. You have a hunting party out, and you've got the senior hunters and the trackers out front of the hunting party who can identify the game, track it down, and say what to do to harvest it. What they're trying to do is get everybody to be a porter. In other words, to carry what the few have harvested. And science, technology, engineering, and math are like learning how to read signs, track game, hunt game in a wilderness situation. It's necessary. The universe is a wilderness, and we have to learn to cope with it because we have an exceeding population that is too big for what we have outside of certain venues to support it. So we have a crying need for people who will invent things that we are not getting dealt with. And although these other things are necessary, some people to port the logs and gather up the sticks for the fire, cut the wood, chop the wood, caulk the seams. That's important, but we need those people who will design the monuments, the big buildings, and the other things. And the problem is it gives the U.S. an out so that the well-to-do children whose parents know the secret can put them into a track that will put them on top, making the big money, being the 3% that controls 98% of the country's wealth, and they will remain in charge. And meanwhile, everybody else will be a service worker. They'll be employed and perhaps happy about it, but they won't make and shake. So if you want to be part of the action, you need to learn how to make that action happen. And that's through science, technology, engineering, and math. The hard stuff that requires that you sit down at a table and use your intellect to study rather than watching basketball. You see, you can play basketball and be a plumber if you pay attention to the mechanicals. That doesn't require a whole lot of thought, though it's not anything for a dummy. Nothing wrong with that. But they want to sidetrack everybody into this, and we hear it so often. I want to grow me some fruits and vegetables, and they can give us some land. Like, who's going to give anybody valuable land? And if you got this freebie nation, who's going to manage it? Who's going to secure it? And who's going to protect it from some scoundrel who decides to come in and say, they got some stupid Negroes over here, we're going to take it again.
All right, so I'm gonna pull up this super chat right here, and I have one more thing that I want to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Perel. So thank you for the lovely donation. He says, "Hi Dana and Judge Joe Brown. I'm working on a reparations document that I would like Judge Joe Brown to go over. What would be the best way to accomplish this?"
I don't know. I've been thinking about reparations for 55 years. And some of my good friends, ranging from Johnny Cochran to roommates, we have gone into this kind of thing to see what we could come up with. There are possibilities, but the main one will have to be legislative, and our Negroes in Congress aren't cooperative. But if
What
you
would be
have
the
an
best way?
idea,
So he said he wants you to go over, I guess, some of his documents.
last time I went over documents, and I'm not practicing law, it was a minimum of about $5,000 an hour. But you want me to volunteer my services? See how that goes when it
But
comes down. But
can-
I mean, I don't
can
mind
you legally
appropriate case.
can you legally go over someone's document?
Yeah, I'm not talking
You're
about
retired.
legal advice. This is legislation. I can do that all day long.
Oh, okay,
But
it's
the
a fee.
question
It's
is,
free.
is it an innovative idea?
Okay. No, but basically you're saying if you want me to look over it, it's a fee. If you want me
No,
to
I
look
didn't
over it.
say that'd be a
Oh,
fee, but you're asking me to donate $5,000 an hour worth of time. That's minimum.
so then what are you saying then?
I might, but it's the thing. If you've been doing, say, plumbing your whole life, and there's a fee you get for it, and everybody that knows
All
you
right, so that's
master
what I'm saying.
plumber
It's a
wants you
fee.
to do
So
plumbing
so
for you.
basically you don't mind looking over the documents, you just want to be paid to look over the
I
documents.
don't necessarily want to be paid.
Why not?
I'll look at it. If it's worthwhile, fine. I'll
He
always,
wants to know how can he get you to look at it?
well, there are ways he can go through you, but the point of the thing is a whole lot of people have been trying for the last 160 years. So
All right, so sir, Mr. Pirelli, Mr. Perel, I hope I'm saying your name right. Is there an email? Email me. My email is in the description of the channel, the about section, but it's Dana with the data at gmail.com. You can also follow the judge on X and message him. But my email is Dana, and I think I have it up here. Do I? I need to put it. Let me edit this. Email. All right. So, Mr. Perel, I put the email is going across the screen at the bottom here is Dana with the data at gmail.com. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for the lovely super chat. So email it to me. I'll get it over to the judge. And you can also follow him on X at Judge Joe Brown TV. And you can message it to him there as well. But email it to me. That would most likely be quicker. All right. So one more thing I want to bring up here. I don't know if you heard it or seen this. Oh, wait. What I'm doing here. Give me a second. Once I had it, I got to bring it back up. Okay, yeah, here we go. So before I play this, I'm just going to do a little bit of background. Jacksonville, Florida. So new details are emerging from a now viral Jacksonville traffic stop that happened in February that shows a man being punched in the head multiple times by Jacksonville sheriff officers. So I want to play this clip and have you talk about it.
When he pulled me over, he walked up, opened my door because my window don't work, right? Okay. And then I said, so what I did wrong? Yeah. He said, well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights off, first of all. And then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up? Huh? Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor? Huh? Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands.
Here.
Why did you get out the vehicle?
I'm here. What is your reason, sir?
Step out.
What is your reason?
Step out now. All right.
Get on the ground. No, don't.
Get on the ground.
Stop fighting.
Put your hands behind your back.
Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
Well, actually, you know what's interesting? If he exercises privilege.
Ain't no talking now, man. Ain't no talking.
What's going on, man?
You're under arrest. That's what's going on.
No, bro.
Yes, bro.
You have a lawful reason, bro.
Big knife center right here, too.
You gonna throw my phone like that, bro?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it off of you, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to have a regular conversation with y'all, bro.
That's not how it works.
Too late. It ain't no too late.
When they asked you to step out of the vehicle, you should have done that shit.
Sir, your partner didn't even ask.
Marijuana in his right pocket.
Yes, it is.
So why close the door if you see him pull up?
Because, man, what you mean? He talking about arresting me and stuff, bro. I didn't do nothing.
It's called resisting, idiot.
I didn't do nothing wrong, sir. Can you back me up to the car so I can lean up?
Shut up.
When he pulled me up.
Give me a second. All right.
In most states, if it's overcast, foggy, raining, or whatever, you're supposed to turn your headlights on. When you exercise the privilege of operating a motor vehicle on the highways of a state, you consent to these kind of things. And he didn't know it. All he had to do was step out. Now he's got in Florida an illegal substance, I think. So, and a knife that seems to have been illegal under Florida law, or allegedly so. So he's got problems. He could have avoided it by simply stepping out. If he had not done what he done, they simply would have given him a warning, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they singled him out for a number of other reasons. You follow somebody who's under the influence down the street, and you can tell whether that is a drug, marijuana, other drugs, or alcohol, and there is a certain kind of apparent impairment that becomes necessary. So all they had to do was just comply, and all of this other stuff would not have happened.
So it
Next
says here,
thing, next
well,
thing, we just had a 4-person shooting on my street, for goodness sakes, right here yesterday evening, and another one this morning.
well,
And
it says here the police report states that McNeil was pulled over around 4:17 p.m. after an officer saw his headlights and tail lights were off in inclement weather. The officer said he also saw the driver, McNeil, not wearing his seatbelt. In the now viral video posted Sunday, McNeil is seen wearing his seatbelt. The officer said in a police report, once he pulled McNeil over, McNeil quickly opened the driver's door, immediately becoming verbally combative. The officer said he told McNeil the reason he stopped him, then asking him for his identification, to which he said McNeil replied, "Call your supervisor," before closing the driver's door and locking it.
That's not appropriate. Get out the car.
Right. And I don't think he told him, "Let me just see your ID."
Yeah. So, I mean, he's entitled to do that. If you're driving a doggone car, your seatbelt's not fastened, you've got an infraction right there. Some states you can't stop because of a seatbelt violation, but if you stop for another reason, no lighting commensurate with inclement weather, then they've got an excuse to check it out. Now, he says he gets out of the car, gets back in, apparently, or they say. But
Right, he got out, he got back in, and then that's when they walked up to the car. They didn't ask him to get out. They just said, "Let me see your ID," which they do.
Yeah. So why didn't he show ID?
So he goes on to say the officer then calls, no, he tells him to call the supervisor, but the officer then calls for backup, according to the report, telling McNeil he was being placed under arrest for resisting an officer without violence. After this time, the report states McNeil was given several warnings that the officer was going to break his window and remove him from the car if he didn't comply with his commands. The officer said McNeil continued to refuse to comply, at which point he broke his window, which we did see. The officer who breaks McNeil's window did not appear to give any verbal warnings or commands to McNeil before breaking a window. Instead, the officer appears to tell other officers he's about to break the window, although this statement does not appear to be directed towards McNeil.
I mean, he's asked you to get out. You're not getting out. At that point, he doesn't have to beg you. For some reason, people think you're supposed to beg somebody and persuade them. You don't have to. If you have the lawful authority and you have the justification, the probable cause, or the reasonable cause, you may act. You don't have to be nice. That's just good public relations.
It says at this point in the police report, the officer states McNeil was reaching for the floorboard of the car where a large knife was sitting as multiple officers removed him from the car. In the video, McNeil appears to look at the camera as the window is broken and shifting his hands forward, at which point he shows his hands and folds his arms across his chest, not resisting the officers as they removed him from the car. But here's the thing. He may not have been resisting when they were physically removing him, but he was resisting when he refused to show his ID.
Get your ass out the car.
Is that still considered resisting?
Yes.
If you refuse to show your ID.
If they give you an order and they've got the lawful authority to do it, you're resisting if you don't comply. Now, it may be that their order is unlawful, but if you resist that unlawful order, it's on you to prove basically that it was unlawful. See, in other words, you can resist an illegal arrest, but you better be all squared away when it comes to that arrest is unlawful.
Right. Now, they said that they found around 3.5 grams of marijuana were removed from the car, as well as drug paraphernalia and the knife mentioned in the report. So he is suing because he was punched twice in the face. That is excessive force.
No, that's not. It's not deadly force. It is to subdue somebody who is resisting arrest. Police used to carry 3-foot long nightsticks. Why do you think they carried them? Bobbies patrolling London, England carried truncheons, and the Bobby was, walk down the street in New York, New Jersey, where you lived, and they could twirl the things. Police MPs military MPs and SPs, Shore Patrol, they twirled the truncheons. That's what they did. And see, they stopped that because it's nice. Actually, it's a good way to keep from having to shoot somebody. But once the power of the state comes in, you're supposed to comply.
Well, he has hired civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Harry Hughes.
Must we?
Yes. So
I'm not even going to discuss that.
Well, it says here, one of his attorneys said, I am absolutely disgusted by the actions of these officers, but unfortunately, I'm not surprised by this is what Mr. Daniels, one of his attorneys, has said. The Jacksonville Sheriff Office has a long history of this kind of needless violence and brutality. It should be obvious to anyone watching this video that William McNeil wasn't a threat to anyone. He was calmly exercising his constitutional rights, and they beat him for it. That's what.
Okay, fine. That's not the way the law works in the United States. If somebody wrongs you, you have the right to proceed civilly against them or their department. The point is, they don't have to beg you. When they give you an order, you resist at your peril. So he's operating a motor vehicle. They've got a pretext, justification for the stop. It's inclement weather and he doesn't have the lights on, which under Florida law, I may be mistaken. I'm not giving legal advice, but I think it's the same as it is for Tennessee and California. Inclement weather requires that you put your lights on. It's a safety thing. So he gave them cause to stop him. He didn't have the seatbelt on, according to their allegations. There's no tape that shows anything about that with the initial stop. There is a knife that it is illegal for him to have in the car right between his feet where it's reachable. He's got a prohibited amount of marijuana, which isn't necessarily legal in Florida or under U.S. law, though it may be other places. So he resists arrest. They gave him resisting arrest doesn't have to be physical.
So what constitutional rights was he exercising? Apparently,
he had a right to inquire, and they told him what it was. Now comply with the state's order, especially since you're operating a motor vehicle and under the rules of the roads, you consent to being stopped under those circumstances.
Do you have a constitutional right to not show police officers your ID?
Nope.
Really?
And the law that the Supreme Court has set in place decades ago is if you refuse, they can take you in until they ID you.
Okay.
How about, remember the tradition that goes behind it? The bounty hunter who has got a wanted dead or alive poster on you, or 1877 case that says if you are a bounty hunter, you may transport firearms across state lines without a permit or anything else if you've got an active warrant for somebody's arrest. See, this has long been the law. And people, that's plotting, a whole lot of cowboy movies.
So he may get a bag for being punched because he had a chipped tooth.
And the bottom line is they don't have to keep begging. At a point when you refuse to comply, they can subdue you.
But he did punch him for
they used to use
the punch was a little bit too much.
They used to use a 3-foot long nightstick, and if you've ever seen anybody clubbed with one, it's like, hey.
You know what it looked like? It looked like the little sucker punches.
Well,
Like,
yeah, in other
you
words,
snuck one in there, and it's like that was unnecessary. You're
well,
awful.
but see, here's the thing. This guy in the uniform wants to see his wife and children when he gets off work. This isn't him being on a battlefield doing
I'm
heroics.
so tired of
ordinary
officers
job.
using that as an excuse. That's not no.
No,
He was not an endangerment to them. He
It
was
doesn't.
not
He
complying.
doesn't know.
He was not complying.
Well, see,
That's
the
all.
point is, he's got a 4-inch blade knife between his feet, within reach. With a 3-inch blade knife, that's known typically as a boot knife. It's a good way to kill somebody. A lot of people die from 3-inch long knives.
Thank
That
you.
boy, wait a minute. That boy that got stabbed in the chest at the track meet that has resulted in the criminal charges, that wasn't even but a slightly less than 3-inch long blade. So he's got a lethal weapon within reach. He's not complying. He's got a prohibited amount of drug and drug paraphernalia in the car. He's not in compliance with the law, which is the lights on in inclement weather. When they get there, there's no seatbelt on. They give him a lawful order, get out the car. Which
No, they didn't tell him to get out. They just said, "Let me see your ID."
Yeah, well, he didn't do that. So then they said, "Step out the car." When he got to talking that, I want to talk to your supervisor.
Yeah, like I think so. Here's the rule of thumb: get off of that BLM. You can't tell me what to do type of attitude. They didn't ask him to get out. They just said, "Show me your ID," and they probably would have been like, "Hey, you know, you're supposed to have your lights on, whatever, whatever." He could have been like, "Oh, well, I didn't have them on because it was still a little bit of sun or whatever," and they probably would have let him go with
overlooked it. I'm sorry, officer.
Right,
Go on.
exactly, and that would have been it. But thank you, DJ Rock says. So it's okay for the cop to sucker punch him. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. In other words, the
no.
rule for law enforcement is subdue the person so there's no chance for further breach of public peace, dignity, and order as quickly as you can. Now, if you really want to see how this looks, go to some place like England or France and see what they do to you when they think they've got cause to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't shoot you, but
so I just want to read this comment in the chat. Tyree Nichols' beat down was all on video. He died. No Ben Crump, no protesting. Why?
Well, the point is that what you saw with Tyree Nichols is allegedly about a 1, 2, 3, 4-way thing that had to do with.
No, we know all that. What he's saying is Ben Crump always comes for stuff like this when it's a black person and a white cop. But when it's black cops beating and killing a black man, where you at? Because
how about this?
Everything was violated. So
how about this? How about we see him try a case in front of a jury and see what he's got?
Right, which will be nothing. So
well, I don't know. Maybe he does, but we need to see it. You've been doing this for 15 years, and we get to see a jury trial. And that
he just wants to check
spreading the law. Yeah, well, I don't know what he wants, but I'd appreciate seeing a trial.
Exactly. Yeah, you're a lawyer.
I saw a lot of trials out of Johnny Cochran.
Right, and
Willie Garrett.
All his lawsuits. Yeah, and they got their clients' money.
Yeah, whole bunches of money.
Right. So one last, and I said this was actually the last talking point, but I want to
just the message from what we saw. Just comply with the goddamn request. They aren't beating on you. Use a little civility and common sense, and you can get out a lot of these messes. You piss somebody off, and they're gonna act pissed off.
Right. So I want to bring this up. I want to say rest in heaven, rest in peace, rest in glory to Michael Jamal Warner. He played Theo in The Cosby Show. He passed away on Sunday in Costa Rica. I want to play this clip here.
Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, has died. Warner drowned off the coast of Costa Rica yesterday while on a family vacation. Police in Costa Rica say Warner was caught by a high current in the water. Malcolm Jamal Warner starred in all 8 seasons of The Cosby Show as Theo Huxtable. He won an Emmy for his role as the only son of Bill Cosby's character, Cliff Huxtable. I spoke to Bill Cosby, of course, a longtime Montgomery County resident right here in the Delaware Valley. He remembered his young co-star with fondness.
And yet Malcolm Jamal Warner was still able to give life to the character you had in mind?
Very much so. Very, very much so. Malcolm, you could depend on Malcolm always going to the shelter to learn his lines, to gather his character, to come out and be ready. When news came, it was shocking, and of course my thoughts went straight to his mother, who worked so hard, and she was so wonderful with him.
Bill Cosby also sharing with me the humanity he remembers about Malcolm Jamal Warner. After The Cosby Show, Warner went on to star in several other shows, including the long-running medical drama The Resident. Malcolm Jamal Warner leaves behind a wife and a daughter. He was 54 years old.
I don't know what happened with the judge. R.I.P. to Michael Jamal Warner. The judge should be coming back up. 1 second. He should be popping back up. But I do want to say this. I loved his character, Theo. Not because he was handsome, because all the ladies loved Theo. He was very attractive. He was gorgeous. But he was classy. He was respectable on and off the camera. He was the perfect role model for Black boys, Black men, Black America, and all of America. You know, they tried to destroy Bill Cosby, but you cannot destroy that legacy of The Cosby Show and the positivity that it brought to Black America and
Can you hear me?
yeah, I know it's the air, but yeah. So, did you want to say anything about Michael Jamal Warner tragedy?
That was a phase in my life
Hey, we can't hear you. You're too low. It's the air. It's the air.
Okay, that was during a phase in my life when I did not watch television ever. And I'm unfamiliar with the character in the show, except vaguely. It's unfortunate he got caught in a situation offshore that was beyond his means. The ocean can be hazardous, and the world is not a safe place. Stuff like this happens. I understand he was in his mid-50s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just saying, I did watch The Cosby Show, and his character, when you talk about a good representation for young Black boys and Black men, the way he carried himself on and off of the camera, which is very important. And that's not highlighted enough. When we talk about the Diddy's and all these other people, the Epstein's or whatever, people want to always point out and highlight the negative. But what about the people who gave you positive content, positive character? His son, he didn't do well. He never really did that well in school. This is in the show. He had dyslexia, overcame dyslexia, went to college, NYU, I think it was, or NYU or Columbia, New York. And then he ended up graduating, went to grad school, graduating, and then helping young Black kids, being a teacher, a mentor, an educator, all on TV. So have to give this. I just want to give him his respect. He had it when he was alive, and just rest in power, and and all blessings and prayers to his family.
Well, he
Unfortunately,
died in a good way. That's a clean death.
what?
That's a clean death. That's a good way for a
He
man
swept
to
away in
die.
a tie and drowning.
Yeah, that's a good way to
What do you
die.
call that? Asphyxia? I
Yeah,
don't think
but
it's clean.
I faced that. It's a bad way to go, but
But you didn't die.
I know I survived, but there were some close calls. I was a master diver certified, and I had a few close calls over a half century of doing it. So I understand, but it's a manly way to go.
I see what you're saying.
You didn't die peacefully in a bed, violently ill, puking your guts out or crapping all over the bed, totally helpless. You went out in your prime.
And you saying some
You gotta go.
family?
Yeah, I mean, um, die with a sword in your hand.
I hear you, but sometimes you say some of the weirdest things.
Well, that's the way I think.
True. I'm not going to argue with that. I just want to.
The idea of dying sick as the devil in bed is very disturbing to me. I'd rather it be quick, even if it's somewhat agonizing.
I see what you're saying. Well, I just want to play this one clip of him. This MREC TV posted Michael Jamal Warner's last. This was the last IG he uploaded, I guess, before he actually went on vacation. But so I just want to share this. And this goes to show his character, and the type of man he was, and the way he lived his life.
What's good? Yes, I got the flower in my hair. Today's my daughter's birthday. She put the flower there, so I'm rocking it. What? It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. I just wanted to shout out and just spread some love and some good cheer. And life is out here lifing, right? For me and for everybody else. But just wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile. Like if you just take a minute to stop and take stock, I guarantee you can find at least one reason to smile. And if for some reason you can't find a reason to smile, then that's probably the best time to be the reason for somebody else to smile. So, find a smile for yourself and be a reason for someone else to smile. That's all I got. Listen to love because it's been a minute. Peace and love, and I'll be back soon.
Interesting. I'd make the observation that smiling has its place, and sometimes smiling is a dangerous thing to do because fools might misinterpret why you're smiling and try to take advantage of the circumstances.
I understand that, but sometimes just let it be. You don't have to dissect that. But because I get what he was saying. Like, listen.
I get it too. I said it's not a bad sentiment.
So, all right. Good show. And maybe you should do the show more often in your car because the sound was good, the reception, no issues.
Yeah.
May have
the went off from the heat.
Yes, that's why you have the air conditioner on. But other than that, I think it's better in your car. So
yeah, it is. Get reception. I don't have any around my house.
Oh, real quick. Somebody with a super chat real quick. Thank you to Ethelyn Crenshaw. I know I'm tearing up your first name. Sorry. So Crenshaw. Ben Crump does represent Tyree Nichols' family. Yeah, after the fact.
Well, there's one interesting thing about that. Allegedly, the mother he represents put Tyree up for adoption before he was 2 years old. He got adopted. And the problem is that under Tennessee law, she gave up all of her parental rights. So He may have a client that has no standing to be a client, and I'm waiting for the city attorney to raise that issue. They haven't, so I am suspect. It's such an obvious issue under Tennessee law. The family that had the standing would be the adopted family in California, but they aren't party to this action. There's a grandchild, but under Tennessee law, it would seem that if you put your child up for adoption, you not only have your parental rights in that child extinguished, you have any rights as a grandparent extinguished in any progeny that that adopted child may have. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
And I see $550 million, and the former Mayor Strickland and the current Mayor Young and the Chief of Police Davis have basically conceded the case. I wonder how that washes when all that is necessary is a simple motion to dismiss. And since statute of limitations is run, it might be interesting. And by the way, it gives you a perspective. A 2-year statute on a homicide, as is this is the case here, but some states have 25 and 50-year statute of limitations on a booty pinch. That's what I've been talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Fiber Worry. I almost missed your super chat. She says, will anyone be held accountable, Obama spy or Biden auto pen?
Well, the auto pen, as I've said many times, is a rubber stamp, and the Constitution did not anticipate the chief executive being so disrespectful to the statutory regulations passed by Congress that he rubber stamps them rather than signing them. And we don't know if he was of sound mind and was cognizant of what he did. And after the fact, we don't have any authentication that it was him. And by the way, it sets up a way a programmer could program an auto pen to perform some very interesting forgeries. And we do have this dishonesty going on. Can you see expanding the auto pen into backing up online fraud? Oh, that's interesting. You can program the thing. All you need is a copy of somebody's original signature. I think, maybe wrong.
Well, thank you to Victor for the lovely Cash App, and of course Walter for the lovely Cash App as well. Thank you guys for watching on X. I haven't been streaming on X in a minute. Thank you everybody here on YouTube in the chat. Katalia, everybody. First of all, everybody who donated, love you most of all. And of course, thank you, Judge, for giving us your time. Now, honey,
May I make a last little quick statement?
Uh-huh.
As illustrated by that Florida cop driver situation, don't write a check your behind can't cash. In other words, don't whoop. If you're going to go for bad, be able to back it up and not depend on somebody being nice to you.
And stop having an attitude.
Yeah, and then by the way, the cop may be wrong. I'm not saying he is in this case, but how many people are wrong because they jack up their girlfriends, wives, rob stores, shoot somebody that is under circumstances that put them in a penitentiary? I mean, all kinds of crime happen. So why provoke one if it was a crime? Just comply. That's what you agreed to when you got the driver's license. License and registration, please. I mean, that's in the movies. That's in the comic strips. License and registration. Comedians tell jokes about that. You don't get it, so you going through all these changes, get out the car. I want to speak with your supervisor. That's just stalling time, trying to hope the inevitable occurs so he can get rid of the dope. Is that what's supposed to happen? Or the controlled substance?
Real quick, because when you were saying that, Jamal Warner, he died like a man, quick and swift. Do you think that men should die like that, somewhat tragically, a little bit rough or hard, as opposed to growing old? What's wrong with growing old and dying of old age?
Well, whether you're talking about civilization in Europe, China, India, Africa, for Native Americans, they used to have bad names like straw death, feather death, or whatever for dying of old age. You didn't get the Valhalla unless you were a superhero who made it to old age. One of the reasons that Christianity spread through Europe was the promise of if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That was looked at as glorious. You got to Valhalla and got to meet Odin and Thor and prepare for Ragnarok if you died with a sword in your hand or an axe or a club or a bow and arrow. In other words, you died with the weapon in your hand, or you died in a hunt where some big animal killed you, or you fell off the cliff. In
I
other
get
words,
all that, but I don't think it makes you less of a man if you die of old age.
well, yeah, but I'm just saying it's a human tradition.
Ah,
Plus, before modern medicine,
you're old, so
I know, but I stay active and
so you're
I
hoping it's your time to go. That is something rough and
yeah,
tragic.
well, if I have anything to do about it, it'll be in some wilderness and they'll find my dead body or bones months later.
Okay.
I do not want to die in anybody's bed.
Yeah,
That is
but an
miserable.
illness, a suffering an illness is not easy, and a lot of times
I
that's
don't
fight
care.
of yourself.
If I'm suffering from an illness, I'm going to go out and do something adventurous. So that's likely to kill me before the illness.
I see what you're saying. And he was on vacation, uh, doing an adventure because they said he got up early before everybody else. I guess the sunset, went out on the beach and wanted to hop in the ocean and then take it all in. And the current was just so strong. That's again Mother
Yeah.
Nature. You cannot win. You cannot beat Mother Nature. And
if, by the way, for anybody listening, you ever get caught in a riptide and due to the weather changes, they're having a bad problem with that all along the Atlantic coast. Do not try to fight the current. Let it take you. If you can float and it's salt water, so you're likely to be able to flip over on your back, do a backstroke. Don't try to fight the current. Let it take you, but swim diagonally and try to swim across the current and you'll get out of it. You might be a long way off from the shore, but at least you have control of your situation.
so don't panic.
Don't panic.
Yeah. Okay.
And don't fight it because you'll quickly wear yourself out. There's no way to swim against the current. If the current's going this way, swim that way and let it take you out while you're swimming across. Of course, if you have some bad sharks out there, that might be another problem, but
Another manly victory, another manly death, right? To fight the shark.
well, that one's a little bit more gruesome. Something ate you. You didn't go out at the top of the food chain. And believe me, I've been in the water with some large sharks. And one time, a bull orca in the wild, and that was okay. That was thought-provoking. Let's put it that way.
All right. Thank you, Judge. Good show.
All right.
Now go. I think your date left you.
No, I don't have a date here. What happened is I saw somebody that recognized me from where I was, came over to speak. A lot of people were doing that, and I was pointing out I was on the thing and just waved. But it got hot enough in the car, 105 some degrees, so the phone shut off. I had to turn the air conditioning on to cool the phone down. That's a change. It wasn't from somebody calling or a spam call.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Oh, wait.
Bye.